Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, Pigskin Addicts, back again with another video. So I'm gonna jump straight into it. You guys know draft season is here. We're about a month away from the draft now, so a lot of these stories, as far as draft positioning, who can go where, all of these stories are really starting to pick up now. They're all starting to gain a lot of steam. So I just wanted to cover the Chargers, the possibilities of what they're gonna do with the fifth pick. So I'm gonna make several videos on this, but this is the first video that I wanted to make because I think it's the most likely outcome with the fifth pick in the draft. I think the Chargers end up taking Malik Nabers. The Chargers are reportedly really interested in him. There's been a lot of interest in him for a while now, is what's been reported. So I think it is the most likely option. I know that there are several holes that the Chargers have to fill in, right? They need a lot. There's a lot of depth pieces that are needed. But I honestly think the Chargers are going to end up taking Malik Nabers. Our new GM, Joe Ortiz himself, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago, he was quoted as saying he is going to take, the Chargers are probably going to take the best available player in the draft. And that basically, was the philosophy that he learned under Ozzie Newsome in Baltimore, and just recently under Eric DeCosta, who's the general manager in Baltimore. That's pretty much what they do in Baltimore, and it makes sense, right? It makes sense from a standpoint. You're gonna need good players to win, right? You're always gonna need good players to win. Obviously you need depth as well too, but I think finding depth is a lot more. None of this is easy, but finding depth is a lot more of a streamlined process than it is finding great players. And that honestly makes a lot of sense. And that really does make sense, the way that Baltimore has really constructed their organization from the time that they were started back in the 90s, right? The mid 90s, when they first were a expansion team. That's the way that they built things up, right? Let's take the next available player, right? The next great player. Doesn't matter what position he plays. We take a guy who's a great player, who's known as a great player, who's has great film in college. People are raving about him. Let's take this next great player. Let's plug him in. Let's get him in our organization, and things pretty much happen from there. And again, when you are a team, when your organization like Baltimore, and you're able to do what you can do as far as late round draft picks and undrafted free agents, then you can take the next available player, right? It doesn't matter what position they play, and it doesn't really matter what your needs are. When you take the next best available player, you can pretty much build a team around that. That's what they did with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was going to fall out of the first round if Baltimore didn't take him. So they obviously, let's take this next great player. Let's get him in our system. He came in. He wasn't the starter right away. But obviously, he's developed into one of the best players in the league now, two-time MVP. That's what they did, right? I don't think that they went into this draft saying, well, hey, let's get Lamar Jackson. If they really wanted him that bad, I think they probably would have traded up, to get him if they wanted him that bad. But he pretty much fell in their lap. This happened several times in Baltimore. Same thing, a guy I'm thinking of, Kyle Hamilton, too. Kyle Hamilton looks like he is a top 2-3 safety in the entire league. He pretty much fell into their lap a couple of years ago. I don't think that they, set out saying, we want this guy. I think they had a bunch of guys on the draft board, and he fell into their lap. They took him as the next available best player, and you see he's already starting to pan out now. So this is a strategy that they have in Baltimore. And Joe Ortiz, he did a couple of interviews speaking about this. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself just because you have a lot of needs. If you pigeonhole yourself trying to fill in needs, in a draft, then, you're probably going to whiff on a player or two, right? And it happens regardless, right? It doesn't matter what your draft strategy is. But I think when you pigeonhole yourself and you say, we're going to take this guy because we need this guy, then that's when you can run into trouble. And honestly, their draft strategy has worked. It's worked a lot. And again, when you pair that with what they've been able to do in the undrafted free agent market or in the late round draft picks in Baltimore, it works. So for Joe Ortiz to bring this philosophy to LA, I like it. I really do. I really, really like it. And I think Malik Nabers, obviously, he has the opportunity to become the Chargers' number one receiver. And even though he's a young guy, he's gonna have to feel his way out. As far as the speed of the game and things like that are concerned. But I think he has the tools and the attributes to be a number one receiver in the league. Now, another big reason why I think Malik Nabers will end up a Charger is that Marvin Harrison Jr. is pretty much confirmed to the Cardinals. Now, this is Howard. This is coming from Howard Bowser. This is coming from his Twitter. Howard Bowser has been a writer for a very, very long time, almost 40 years. He's been writing for almost 40 years. He's covered the Cardinals for a long time, and he's plugged in. So anything coming from him is, you can pretty much take as the gospel. Now, this is a tweet that he tweeted out just yesterday, March 20th, right? Confirmed that Marvin Harrison Jr. told Cardinals of his plan to not work out at his pro day unless the team said they wanted to see something or wanted him to. They were fine with him continuing to work out at Ohio State to prepare for football rather than drills/timing. So, Marvin Harrison has basically told the Cardinals, look, if you guys want to see anything else, if there's anything that you want to see that you hadn't seen on tape, if there's anything else that you want me to do at my pro day or whatever, just let me know and I'll do it. And they were basically good. They basically said, hey, we're good. We've seen everything that we wanted to see. So this pretty much almost, guarantees Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Cardinals. And this is obviously, I think they've been locked on him for a long time. I was hearing stuff as soon as draft positionings were out. I was hearing stuff about the Cardinals and Marvin Harrison Jr. like almost right away. So I think that they've been pretty much locked on this guy right away. And I think he's a good pick for them. I think he's a good pick for Kyler Murray. They need a legitimate number one. I think the thing with Marquise Brown really didn't work out. He's not a true number one receiver. It is what it is, right? They tried it out. He's not a true number one receiver. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a true number one, though, coming into the draft. He's obviously number one on a lot of teams' draft boards. So I don't think that he will be available there for the Chargers. Barring any kind of crazy trade or anything like that, then yes, I think if the Chargers are going to have a pick between those two guys, again, when you go with the best available, I think Marvin Harrison is better than Malik Nabers. I think they're right there. They're very, very close. But I think Marvin Harrison is a little better, especially when you look at his size too. He has prototypical size for the NFL too. He's 6'4", 220. He's a bigger, stronger guy, but he still has a lot of lateral quickness, right? He can, go from sideline to sideline. He can take the top off of defense as well too. He can play the inside or outside as well too. And especially as a guy being that big, it's very, very advantageous for an offense to be able to pick a guy up like that. I think, especially for the Cardinals, I think he reminds them a lot of Larry Fitzgerald, being a bigger guy that can play the inside or the outside, right? And especially being able to catch the ball over the middle and not go down right away. He's a bigger guy. He's as big as some of the linebackers, especially some of the smaller linebackers in the league. So I think they really like him. I think, he gives them a lot of nostalgic memories of Larry Fitzgerald. So I think he's a lock. Again, unless the Cardinals get a pick that they can't refuse, right? Get a trade offer for that fourth pick that they can't refuse. We've been hearing a lot about J.J. McCarthy, Michigan quarterback. There's been a lot of rumblings about him being a potential top 5 pick. Maybe that happens. I don't know. Where the trade is going to happen, we don't know. Do the Chargers give up the 5th pick? We don't know, right? I can continue, with these scenarios all day long, but basically there's going to be a lot of interest around J.J. McCarthy. So he could come into play here pretty soon. The things are starting to heat up on that front. But until that happens, until, that is set in stone, I believe the Cardinals are really set on Marvin Harrison, and I think they're going to take him. So that's not going to be a surprise. So obviously, if we're going with the best, next available player, next best available player, then I think that sets the Chargers up for Malik Nabers. And he's no consolation prize. He's a very, very good player, very explosive. His sideline to sideline quickness is very, very impressive. He can really, really, really stretch a defense out vertically and horizontally. So I like him. He's a tough guy. He had some drop issues earlier this past season, but that was like, I think, like a game or two. I remember him in the Florida State game. He had a rough game that game. He dropped a couple of passes that he shouldn't have, but after that, he really, really put on the show all season long. And I think pairing him up with Justin Herbert, I think would be a very, very lethal combination. He's a guy, he's young, he's explosive. And he seems to be able to run all the routes as well too. So I think he's ready to play day one. What Quentin Johnston wasn't, I think Malik Nabers is. So I'm excited. It doesn't matter if it's him, doesn't matter if it's Marvin Harrison. I think the Chargers are going to end up picking a wide receiver in the first round, and I think they will pick the best available wide receiver in the first round, who at this point it looks like it's going to be Malik Nabers. So again, I'm excited. I'm excited about that. And if Malik Nabers is a Charger, I'm going to be excited about it because I think the dude is special. And again, I think he's ready to play from day one, especially in an offense like this, especially where he's going to have support from the running game. And he's going to have a lot of opportunities to make plays from day one. All he has to do is really come in, be able to learn the playbook, get Herbert's, blessing, be able to get that trust and that chemistry going with Herbert. If he's able to do that, he can come out and make plays, from day one. So I'm expecting a lot from him if he is going to be a Charger. But again, there's still a lot left to be seen as all of this draft stuff rolls out. But that is all I got for this video, guys. I just wanted to come on here and talk about my most likely scenario for the Chargers in this draft. Some people might disagree, whatever, but I think this is the most likely scenario. If I had money to bet on this, I would put money that the Chargers select Malik Nabers, who would be the best available pick at that point at number 5. So that's who I got, just my opinion. Hit the comments up, though. Let me know who you think the Chargers will draft or what they will do with this pick. I'll be back again tomorrow, probably discussing another possibility for this number 5 pick. But that's all I got for this one, guys. Thank you guys so much for the support. Really, really appreciate it. Shout out to all of my new subscribers. Thank you guys so much. Shout out to all of the OG subscribers. I appreciate you guys too. And until next time, I will see you guys tomorrow.